Hello, beautiful souls. Today I have the honor and joy to have with me again our dear Susie. Susie has come on the channel a couple of weeks ago, a little bit more perhaps. And I had the opportunity to interview her on not only the different modalities she has offered in the past and present in the present, what her experiences also as a person, as a spiritual being in a journey, and also she talked about her different galactic contacts and experiences and things like that. So that was also very interesting. So before we go a little bit more into this interview, I want people to have the link to our first interview will be put in the description of this video, so people can go back to that first one and have a little bit of a background about what Susie brings to us today. So Susie, first of all, welcome.
Thank you. Glad to be back.
Yeah, it's a real pleasure to have you. You are offering a modality which is acupressure, and I was very curious about this approach and how how it works and how we can compare it also to a little bit similar but not exactly the same other types of modalities such as acupuncture or eventually shiatsu. And you're going to explain to us a little bit the differences, but also go more in depth into what acupressure is and the benefits it brings to people and your own practice. So without further ado, let's dive into it. So welcome, my dear Susie.
Thank you. Yeah, the modality of acupressure I do is called process acupressure. It was developed by Amina Rahim through So Lightning International. And she was a transpersonal psychologist that found she wasn't getting the results with her clients that she felt she should get. So through different studies and through, incorporating Eastern medicine along with Western, she developed and took certain points from acupressure and created this. And it works with the mind, body, soul, and emotion connection. So we don't realize how much trauma is trapped in the body. Psychotherapy will only take you so far. And then you kind of hit a wall. That's kind of what had happened to me. And I think a lot of people that I've spoken to has had that happen at one point or another. And what this does by working with the meridian points on the body, it really gets into and helps, release what's trapped in there. Now, that doesn't, mean that somebody can't come in and say, I just have neck pain or shoulder pain, or, I have asthma problems. And you can work on that, just fine. It doesn't always have to be an emotional connection. But the Chinese believe that any dis-ease in the body is stagnant or stuck energy. So by opening up these meridian pathways, really gets the energy flowing, gets it, even balances it out. And that can be done not only with, acupressure, acupuncture, shiatsu. There's many different modalities that work with the meridians. But this particular modality I work with is gentler. It's an easier way to get in there. So and it really does work. I was struggling with a little bit of depression this week with the energies that were going on, and I sat down Saturday night and I pulled out the emotional release, and I went through that on my own body. And with the points, this particular modality, you work with front and back points. So in that particular case, I use what's called fulcrum balls, and they're just regular soft balls, and I'll just put them if I need to hit something in my back, because otherwise then you're trying to do what my teacher calls acupressure twister, and you really can't get back there. So you're trying to do this and then it's hurting your shoulders. So and I have to say, by the time I was halfway through, I felt much better, because it got the energy moving. Sometimes we're stuck too much in our head. and getting, getting out of our heads, getting more grounded, and breathing again. A lot of times we forget to breathe because,
Yeah.
we're like, you know, so tense. But so when you're pressing these points, even if you're just doing it on yourself, you breathe into them. If I'm working on someone else, I'll tell them breathe into the point. And sometimes they'll say, well, I don't know what that means. I say that to my husband. He's like, I don't know what you mean. So it's just breathe into where my hands are, and it gets you to focus on your breath. And there's so many different cultures and so many different you know teachers out there that meditation. There's breath meditations that work on with the breath, and that in itself is so calming. There was one teacher that he does box breathing, and you just breathe in for 4 counts, hold for 4 counts, breathe out for 4 counts, hold for 4 counts again. And if you're just focusing on that circular box breathing, that will just bring your, really ground you, focus you, get you back, centered in the present moment.
Wonderful. Tell me, just before we go further, is it a modality that people can actually very simply do by themselves, for themselves, without necessarily having to? Well, of course, I want to make publicity for you, beautiful, what you do and what you offer. But are people able to do it themselves? And are there certain points that they cannot reach themselves? How does that work if one wants to auto heal?
Yeah, absolutely. There's with this, there's a it's called the Good Points, and that is all. That's what I just received on my last certification, is being able to teach that, and that is for people to do at home, because you want to work in between. The session should be like every 2 weeks if you're coming in with a practitioner. So you really want to work with yourself at home, because daily life happens. I mean, you got job stress, you got home stress, all these different things going on. So you need to continue, your healing at home. What this does is really helps the client tap into their own, intrinsic healing abilities to heal themselves, not only mentally, but physically. So if you're working at home, that's only helping. It's just like any other, lack of a better way to say, although this really isn't medical or medical advice, if you're going to a doctor, your doctor is going to tell you, if you went to a physical therapist or a doctor for shoulder issues, they're going to give you exercises at home to do. So it's the same thing with this. We'll give you their a scaled down, easier version to do at home. But yeah, you want to work with that, along with if the person is coming in with emotional issues, keeping an awareness journal, writing down in a journal what you're feeling, even if it's just 2 or 3 words, a couple times a day, just to check in with yourself. And then sometimes once you start writing, things will start coming out, and you're like, wow, I didn't even realize, I'm remembering that from when I was, 5 years old or 8 years old or whatever. And that's also very, very important, because it really helps everything connect, helps everything work together in a flow. So
This is wonderful.
So.
And we had talked about a bit earlier that there are some modalities which offer similarities but are definitely not the same, such as acupuncture and shiatsu. Would you care to share a little bit with us the differences and the similarities between these different modalities?
Shiatsu works with the meridians as well, but the practitioner is going through the point, rather than where acupressure and acupuncture is meeting at the point. Now, shiatsu is great. It's a little more invasive, which some people may love or need. You can use all these together. You certainly can use shiatsu along with the acupressure or acupuncture. Some people, shiatsu is really more massage, where acupressure and acupuncture isn't. And if you have neck problems, you're going for shiatsu. Some people may need that really to get into that muscle. where the acupressure is more gentler. Um, we feel where the body will let us in. And there's certain points, if there's trauma stuck in them, you have to meet the body in a gentle way. Let it relax, and then it will actually let you in further. Where a shiatsu, somebody who has, I'll just pick something out of the hat, maybe somebody who has sexual trauma.
Mhm.
If you're going into a point, the body may want to push that back and maybe too invasive.
Yeah.
Where meeting with an acupuncture, acupressure, it's a little more gentler, and it will allow the body to relax. And then at a later point, go into shiatsu. Absolutely.
Yeah. Mhm.
So that's kind of the different, the difference with like the shiatsu with acupressure and acupuncture. Acupressure encompasses like a field of energy, where acupuncture is just on the specific point. Acupressure, you're working with 2 points at the same time, usually front and back. So if I'm going over like the heart, I would have my hand behind the person's heart. So you're feeling the field of energy. You're feeling the pulsing between the 2 points. And it's not always necessarily up top. It could be, on the front of the body as well. Then where, when the body is ready to move along, and we're actually, feeling the pulsing, feeling the energy through the body. Now, with this, we are not exchanging energy. I am not putting, the practitioner is not putting their energy into the client or removing energy from the client. You meet at what's called interface. Now, interface is basically, the way I can explain it is, you're kind of like this. You're not here, but you're kind of almost like meeting, but not blending.
Yeah.
So it's like where the client ends and the practitioner meets. And that's how you work with the energy, and you maintain that interface through the entire session. So it's healthier for both. And that's something I never realized I was doing all the years of being in the beauty industry and doing nails. I was taking on a lot of energy, and it made me very depressed. It made me, I was constantly drained, never realizing that all these people I was actually doing energy and healing work on, not knowing I was doing it. I was just, making their nails prettier. So I thought, for 30 some odd years. So once you realize that and start learning about energy work, it's like, oh my God, that's
Of
what
course.
happened to me. Yeah.
It's
Yeah, yeah.
evident, but
Yeah.
you have to know about it and feel it.
Mhm.
But yeah.
And that's something I think they should really teach in, cosmetology school, that they don't, that can happen to you. Um, so it's healthier to meet at that interface, because it really allows the client to access their own healing. And they go into altered states. They can go into altered states of consciousness. So if, somebody is really super stressed out, and they come in and they say to the practitioner, I'm just, really stressed. I need to relax. And that's what they want out of the session.
Yeah.
You just leave them alone at that point, and just, work through the points until they're finished. Sometimes they may come up with something. You watch the cues of the body. You're feeling, you're listening to the body, where it's telling you. I've been, just in the classes, I was working with one of the girls I was in the class with, and I was doing, particular protocol on her, and I went to a different point. And my teacher said, "Why are you doing that?" I said, "I don't know." I said, "This is what I was just told to the point to go to." And
You
she
let
just
the
looked at
wisdom
me,
of your
and
intuition.
she smiled, and she just nodded, because she knows that, she said to me, in one of she says, "I'm not worried about you." She says, "You know what you're doing."
Yeah.
And I do know what I'm doing, without even knowing that I know what I'm doing. It's
Yeah.
just, I guess I've just been doing this,
Yeah.
elsewhere. But
Definitely. It
And
naturally flows out of you in
yeah,
many ways. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Would you care to tell us just perhaps briefly, but like how how does it work a session? Like someone contacts you for a particular disease of any sort. Like what is an acupressure session? Like how does it unfolds? Like how does it work?
It starts basically with the phone, phone call,
Hmm.
consultation.
Yeah.
You ask them what they're looking, you know, to get out of a session, what their medical history is, how they were referred, um, and then you decide from there, if they explain to them what it is, how it could help them, and then if they feel that they would like to continue, then they would come in for an appointment, and then you would sit down with them and basically have them fill out their forms, medical history, medications that they're on, what they're looking to get out of it. It is not a therapy session, psychotherapy session, so I'm not licensed to do any kind of psychotherapy, but
Hmm.
it's in the before you could do the body work, you're finding out exactly where they are. Um, if they ask you a question, you ask them a question in return. You want them to return to themselves. You do not want them to give you their power, because you want them to realize that the power to heal is within themselves, and to learn to trust themselves, and what they're feeling, and hearing within their bodies, because we're not taught that. We're taught, oh, I need to be fixed, I have to go to a doctor, fix me. We're not broken toasters. We don't need to be fixed. I mean, yes, if you have a medical issue, by all means go see a doctor, um, but we have the ability to heal ourselves. So at that point, once we get through, that consultation, then I would get them on the table and start off with what's called the basic protocol and go through that. As I work with a particular client, then once their body, that gets used to the touch, gets comfortable with it, gets comfortable with me, then I can add in crystals. I can add in tuning forks in later sessions. I can add in the Ds. Um, that isn't something you want to do right away, because especially if somebody has never been through any kind of energetic healing work, if they've never done any meditation, anything going within, it's too much. It's too much of a shock to the system. So this is something that, again, it's a milder, easier way to get into the body,
Hmm.
to get the body to relax, get the body to trust. And in the cases of physical trauma, that's really important to take it very, very slow.
Beautiful. I love how you talk about this kind of mirror effect where you're bringing the
Mhm.
person to him or herself again. I think that's very powerful tool because everybody has within themselves this power. So that's really beautiful. Before you
Yeah.
continue, I just want to ask you something regarding the chakras versus the contact points or the points you
Mhm.
talk about. What would be, because it is interesting. Yesterday we had an interview with Vicky and Dennis, and we were talking about the chakras, and Dennis was telling us that we do have a front part of the chakras, but there's also that back part of chakra, which I
Yes.
didn't know about that. So I thought it was really
Yes.
interesting. I learned something there, and
Mhm.
which is
Mhm.
you confirm, of course, and that's really really interesting. And how the are we talking about the same things? I mean, those
Yeah.
chakra portals, is that the
Mhm.
same meridians and points you're talking about? Like, is it the same thing?
Yes.
Or yeah, okay, just one.
Yes. The conception vessel starts from, I believe it's here, and goes straight down to the root chakra. The governing vessel, I believe it starts somewhere up here, and it goes right around the back of the head, straight down to the tailbone. Now, the conception vessel and the governing vessel are actually formed 16 days post conception. So those are one of the first things that are created in the body.
Mhm.
So yes, we do have, when I finish the protocol, at the end, you do what's called the chakra balancing. And at that point, I would be putting my hands behind the body and on top of the body, meeting, both points at the same time. And I go up the whole
Okay.
chakra system.
Mm-hmm.
So, and you're getting them to really speak to one another, and you can actually feel the energy and what it feels like. Who's never done energy work? This is a little bit of a stronger. Um, I'm really saying it right. But remember when we were kids and we would take the light bulb out of the socket and you would
Uh-huh.
put your finger in there and turn to
There's a
feel the
little
energy.
squiggly
Yeah.
thing happening, a little
So,
shock.
it doesn't feel, it's that intense,
Mm-hmm.
but it actually feels that I can feel the energy actually tingling
Tingling.
within my hands.
Yeah.
And certain people, like my teacher, they spin in different directions. Sometimes they don't. But I was going down, I was doing hers. This was in August, and I was saying to her, okay, this one's going clockwise, this one's going counterclockwise, this one's good. Like, a couple were going clockwise. She goes, that's weird. She said, because they're supposed to go clockwise, counterclockwise, clockwise, counterclockwise. And that's not always the case.
Okay. Does that have
Sometimes
to
you,
do with like a dis-ease of the chakra portal, or it has to
I
do with?
don't know.
No?
I don't
Okay.
think so. I'm not certain, but
Mm-hmm.
they were spinning just fine. So
Okay.
maybe that's just how that particular person, their
Works.
energy works.
Okay.
So I don't know if there's necessarily a right way or a wrong way, or they should be
Mm-hmm.
doing this or they should be doing that. I think it's all relative to the person.
Okay.
So everybody's different, and their energy is different. So
Interesting. So I'm sorry I cut you there. I just wanted to
no,
have like the
no,
difference between the chakra
not at
and
all.
but continue the procedure then the further steps of your session, typical session.
Yeah, so then going up through the whole chakra system, and then certain points you may have to stay a little longer on. Some points just may not move, not depending on the person. Like my husband, when I did his body work the first time, his root and sacral, there was very little movement on. And no matter how long I stayed there, and you could stay there trying to get them to move, sometimes they just don't. And at that point, that's okay. It's not our job to get them to do something. It's, you know, we're just there to hold the points,
Mhm.
hold at interface, hold the energy, see if they'll respond. Sometimes it takes a little longer. Sometimes, you'll get a little bit of a a pulsing. And if you don't, you just continue to move on.
Okay.
Sometimes it just doesn't happen. It just takes some time.
Okay.
And
So that's kind of
so
an energetic blockage, basically, that
yes,
this movement. Okay.
exactly.
Mhm.
Exactly. And then yeah, just moving the energy, the chi down, and then you ground the person at the end to make sure that their energy is grounded, because especially if they're in altered states of consciousness, you want them grounded before they leave. So you give them
Yeah.
water. There's a point on the bottom of the foot that
Mhm.
that you can hit. Um, and then get them to sit up, be aware of their body, give them some water, and then at that point you ask them about the session, what they were noticing. If they were feeling anything, they may not notice anything. They may say, "Well, that was the most relaxing thing I've ever felt." Um, or they may say, "This popped into my head." Um, that happened to me when I was, 10. And at that point, say, well, how did that make you feel? What are you noticing? Um, and they may tell you. And then, then that point, you can give them, I can give them, things to work on at home. There were external other points that they can do on themselves if they're very stressed. Give them, uh, an at-home protocol to do to just calm themselves. Um, and that could be their homework
Mhm.
until their next session. And then the next session would be, how was your last few weeks? What are you noticing? What are you noticing in your body? Any changes? How are your dreams? That's something also I would tell them at the end of a session. Notice your dreams,
Mhm.
write them down.
Yeah.
Anything specific.
You mentioned
And then
altered states of consciousness. Just to reassure people out there
mhm.
who are actually interested in this, we're talking about like a light hypnotic kind of state, like a little bit like you would have when you do like a hypnotic a regression or something like that, or
No, more like
hypno.
more,
Okay,
yeah, more like well, I say altered states of consciousness, but some people can go in very deep. Some people are just it be just more of like
relaxed.
a relaxed.
Okay.
Some people will fall asleep. So
Mm-hmm.
that's what I mean by, you're not going to be going out into the ethers or astrally projecting. It's more just getting the mind, out of the body
Out
and
of the
just in
way.
total relaxation. So it's not, you're not going into any kind of hypnosis at all.
Okay.
I'm not sending you off into the ethers. It's just, you just kind of like when you go in for a massage, some people just
Yeah.
completely just check out for a little while they're just, their body is just relaxing into the energy. So, I
And
may
this,
have
go ahead.
stated that incorrectly, but
No, no, no.
that's
It's.
that's what I
I
meant.
understand what you mean. That the state of
Yeah.
relaxation is definitely something that's different from our normal
Right.
state of being in life.
Right. Right. Right.
Do you notice that some people may have some really intense emotional releases, for example, like when you touch certain, not touch, but when you approach certain points that might be joy or laugh, crying, or is there a lot of
Mhm.
emotion? Do you notice a lot of emotional release sometimes in this
There
type?
can be. There
Mhm.
can be, especially if they're in what's called process as they're going through the points and the body's releasing, memories will come up. I know for myself, it did. And at that point, you just say, "What are you noticing?" And they may say, X, Y, Z. Well, how is that making you feel? Where is that within your body? And at that point, you may continue on with the session. You may just stop at that particular point and just have them breathe into it. Um, really, at that point, you get them to speak to themselves, speak to their body, ask it questions, whatever the emotion is, um, and I can't think of anything at the moment, but when you're in the session at the moment, you just kind of know, what to say. What is it telling you? What does it feel like? What is it, is it, you don't give them um, examples. You just ask them what it feels like. They may say, I don't know. I'm angry. I'm sad. Okay. Well, if it's sad, what does that feel like? Is it, and get them more, keep asking them questions to really question themselves, because you don't want to put anything into their head, because you want them to really trust themselves and access, that healing.
Mhm.
This is empowering the client. Like I was saying before, our medical industries, you're giving your power away to, a doctor, or, and especially if somebody who's going through cancer. I mean, at that point, they're so vulnerable. They're just giving all their power to, their doctors and their team. And that's really, it's disempowering. It's because you feel like, I don't know what's happening, and my doctor's telling me this and I have to do that, and where this can be used, as part of, the cancer treatment. It's not to heal cancer, but it can relax the body and allow the body's natural healing to kick in along with their cancer treatments, to really help facilitate. And it's been done, and it's worked. It really has worked. It has helped people beat cancer, working along with their doctors and their cancer treatment. So because in a case like that, and I'm taking that because that is an extreme case, because it is so frightening. Um, it Unfortunately, cancer has always had that negative connotation of, it's a death sentence. Um, and in some cases, there are doctors that have said to people, "You have 3 months." And these people have survived cancer. It's like, this is what aggravates me, aggravates a lot of people. It's like, don't be telling people that, you don't know, somebody's healing ability, and they'll say, oh, it's it was a miracle, it's like, no, the person had a will to live. They had still more life to live, and they chose, they wanted to live it. And then there's people like, oh, they just get too caught in their heads, where um acupressure, acupuncture really can help get those energies, centers flowing again, and getting the movement within the body, which will help facilitate healing. And that's with anything, whether it's cancer, IBS, if you've gotten into an accident and have back problems, and when those discs, they get compacted, like in an accident, that the energy centers are right along the spine. So by helping and getting the energy flowing will help, our body's natural healing.
Would you say that one person, well, obviously it must be a one case at a time thing, but do you feel that generally it is a multiple session kind of approach, or have you had experiences where just one session was enough to really help someone? Obviously it depends if you just come for a little bit of relaxation versus like a real physical trauma or other, but how would you evaluate, like, a little bit, how long or how many times generally people go through, how many sessions in general, like?
It depends on the person. I mean, you were getting with the person, yes, definitely more sessions. But the client will come to a point where they'll say, I'm okay, I'm good. I don't maybe need them every 2 weeks. Maybe we'll do once a month, once every other month. And then at a point they'll just kind of, then they'll just come in occasionally.
Yeah.
And it depends on the person. Some people would want, more, but you don't really want to do sessions more than, once, twice a month.
Yeah,
because
okay.
you don't want them to come in and to be dependent on you. Because there's some people out there that want to give their power away, and, I need to come in with you, or, and you don't want that. You want them to trust themselves and to do their own inner work, their own healing. Because, we're kind of taught that, through the millennia, that, we're always giving our power away to something. So this is, really to get people back into themselves, back into trusting themselves, and trusting your own inner wisdom in healing. We all have our higher selves. We have all of our own inner wisdom. And we need to start trusting that again.
Absolutely. It's very important. Would you say that the physical diseases and versus the more, I wouldn't say mental, but psychological, emotional reasons why people come and see you, or usually come and see acupressurists? How do you say it? Acupressure?
Yeah, acupressure. Yeah, I guess an acupressurist. I never thought about
I don't know what the exact term.
Yeah.
Would you say like it's a 50-50? Like there's as much physical things than, depression, feelings, emotions, things going on?
I think it's kind of like, a mix. I think mostly people come in for, a physical. They'll hear from somebody, acupressure is great for, you have shoulder issues or neck issues, or, lower back issues, that this is, really great for that. Where some people will come in, with depression issues. I think it's probably about a split, a little more towards, I would say, the physical. And then you realize that the physical actually have to do with mental and emotional.
Totally related, but
So,
I mean, the first incentive from the person comes from a physical ailment or disease. There's often a cause there. That's deeper.
Yeah, that's the body finally, that's when it gives you the signals. Okay, this is something you have to look at. when you're not paying attention to what my teacher says, the bells and whistles, then you get hit by the 2x4s, and that's what knocks you on your back. And that's why when people are constantly stressed and constantly on the go, burning the candles at both ends, they catch cold. They get the flu or a cold, or get cold like symptoms, and then that's their body saying you need to rest, you need to stop.
Yeah.
So the point is not to get to that point. When you start to notice the physical issues, take a step back, and no matter what modality you use, whether it's meditation, massage therapy, yoga, acupressure, acupuncture, shiatsu, whatever it is, that take that time for yourself. We're taught in our society that any kind of self-care is selfish. It isn't. They don't want us to take care of ourselves, because then, we can't heal. We remain sick, and then we're dependent on medications and the health systems to, quote unquote, help us get better, when we have the power all along within ourselves.
Absolutely. I would like to ask you a little bit more about you as a practitioner. Like, you have mentioned to me privately a few times, the different sort of courses and training you've received. And I would love to know a little bit more about the different approaches you've learned through these different courses, and what aspects you've touched upon. And this way, it also brings to the people listening today, what are your, what are you bringing? What are your strengths there?
Um, the acupressure started off with, like I had said in the last video, that dream I had, and I knew this is where I needed to go into. So I had started off with self-care.
Mhm.
And it was just a few courses that were done at a local vocational technical school. And that's how I met my teacher. And we just hit it off, and I knew she was going to be my teacher. And then I had spoken to her and told her this is where I needed to go into. And she offered me SEVA certification. Now, SEVA is the protocol they used on the first responders during 9/11. The teachers came together and they put together certain points, and this is for trauma. And they've been not only at 9/11, they've been all over the world. Any place there was, something major going on,
Mhm.
people needed, quick healing. This is what they developed. So I got that certification, not only for self-care, but to work on others. And then from there, it just kind of just blew wide open. 2 weeks later, she had another course, which was the process acupressure. Um, and then there was clinical, which was last weekend, which I was supposed to be in, but she actually trained me privately in August, about a month earlier. And then the next one I'm going into is actually this Thursday, and it's process acupressure 1B. It's the second part to the process acupressure that I had gotten, the certification I had gotten in July. And the process acupressure was really, it really, it was life altering for me, because it had broken through a wall that I couldn't get through in my own healing. Now, I've worked with, Dr. Joe Dispenza's. I've read his books. I've done his meditations. His are really wonderful. He's working with the mind body connection, but how our mind and processes and the chemicals within our body. So he was explaining about how the body gets addicted to the stress chemicals, and by through meditation and you can actually alter that and change this, the connections in the brain, which was fascinating for me, because I like to know the how things work, so that was very fascinating for me. But I had hit a wall with his, because I just, you get to an emotion, and I didn't know what the emotion was. So I had kind of backed off from doing his, it had taken me as far as it was, I needed to go with it.
Mhm.
And I had always woken up with anxiety. I always had morning anxiety, and working with, his meditations, I woke up one morning and I didn't have anxiety anymore. So his really does work. Um, so when I went into the process acupressure, there was still that wall. No matter what I did, I'm like, well, I can't figure out how to get past this. And this broke through that wall because it was the trauma that was stuck in the body. And when I had gotten through that wall, I realized that it was grief. That was the emotion that I just couldn't access because it was so stuffed down. Um, and we're taught, not really to grieve, that it's not really okay. And especially like in the case of women, oh, you're just, you're just acting like a girl, or and you don't want to be accused of that. And for the men as well, men aren't allowed to grieve and show their emotions because, well, then you're a sissy, you're this, you're that. It, and we don't really heal if we're not getting to whatever that grief is. I mean, we all have our own issues. Everybody has their different things in life that they've gone through. And sometimes we don't know how to access it. There's on both sides, men and women, some people are just afraid. It's like, I can't go there. I can't go there because if I start crying, I won't stop. Well, then cry. Cry. Eventually you will stop. But if you have to cry, cry. Um,
Grief is also a very complex
yes.
mix of emotions, and that's also probably because it's difficult to deal with, because it's not like, okay, I'm sad, I'm crying, and then I'm moving on, or I'm angry or whatever. There you're stuck with like a ugh type of feeling, and you're like,
Mm-hmm.
what's that? And I don't
Yeah,
understand
I
it,
don't
and
like it.
I don't like it. It's uncomfortable. It's complex. I don't know. It's I have a bunch of conflicting emotions.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's interesting what you're saying, because you can't really work that out in your mind. It really has to be like a heart thing, and again, perhaps an energetical thing that your brain cannot just process this. It's more like the body, the energy that can really kind of unwind this, rather than just the brain in the analytical brain. So
Right. And it's so, with childhood trauma, any kind of trauma, it gets so weaved in that you don't know where one begins and the other ends. Um, so with, doing, either psychotherapy along with, acupressure work, journaling, inner work, um, and starting to write down. And I felt with myself right after the process acupressure certification, I just started to write down in my journal everything from the earliest I could remember. This is what happened. This is how it made me feel, not from, an accusation where they did this and it was wrong and they're mean, but it was just from an observer. And by giving it a voice, I was able to move on. And I'm still in the process of doing that. This isn't something that where, okay, I'm going to go in and, I'm going to fix myself. I have 6 months or a year to do it. And that's, no, this is a lifelong journey. So, and you have to, say to people out there, give yourself some credit, give yourself some time, because you will take twists and turns. I mean, you'll go through something.
mhm.
Um, like with myself, it's self-worth, um, issues. It's things that happen to me, with betrayals, and that keeps coming down back to the front. And the universe will put situations in your path that will get you to notice something that you haven't fixed yet. So if you're seeing, patterns, take a look at those patterns. And that's where you have to do your shadow work, your inner work, saying, okay, why is this still coming up? Like what, like I worked on this. Well, it's not really healed. So, but journaling down for me, um, I wanted to see what the commonalities were. So, and I was able to find out that a lot of it was, good enough issues, self-worth issues, because of the way I was made to feel. And, when we're young, we believe what we're told from, people that we trust. So if you have, a parent or a sibling or even friends or a teacher or somebody, in quote unquote an authority, say something to you, that get locked into the brain, and you sometimes you don't even know it's there until one day it just comes out and you're like, oh crap, like, wow, where did that come from? So these are what we call layers, that we put on these different layers, and you don't really notice that the layers are there. But as you do your inner work, and this is where the body work can help, work in conjunction with the inner work to get through those layers, to get to that root, whatever that root causes. And it might not only be just one thing, it might be several things. But you just start to, you peel back those layers, and that's what facilitates the healing. And then the universe will put circumstances into your life where you'll see another person that have gone through or is going through what you went through already. And then you could say to yourself, in a sense of gratitude, it's like, I was there and I worked through it. I made it through. And then at that point, you can help that other person, or, if it's just somebody you meet just in passing, it at that point, you kind of, put your hands on your heart, say, thank you to, your angels, your guides, whoever, whatever your belief system is, or whoever, you work with, just to thank you for, and thank you to yourself.
Super
Always give
important.
yourself love. We're taught not to love ourselves, that we're unlovable people. You have to love yourself. I mean, it's been said before, you are all you have. And I'll go back to, the video when I had woken up, the last video when I was saying about how I woke up in the stasis bed, and I felt this personality fade off, and it was like losing a friend, because this person I wasn't no longer needed, because I was back in my other self. And that's what started me crying, because it was like a loss. You don't realize that you love yourself until you experience something like that. So always give yourself love, always give yourself encouragement, speak kindly to yourself, because your subconscious listens. Don't ever say, oh, I'm stupid, or I'm this, or I'm that, or those aren't your words. Those are somebody else's words that you're repeating. So figure out where those words came from.
And also the patience. And I think that's also something that part of what you do is not going to be resolved in like one session. In since also your practice is also about being that mirror to the person's own inner journey and inner healing, is to have that patience, not only in time for the healing to take place, but also to absorb the different you were talking about triggers earlier, and how we were triggered here and there by this and that, by those layers of trauma that accumulated. And then taking layers out of an onion takes time. I mean, you don't just do it one day. And to have the patience not to, how can I say, like jump into the doingness of things, to just because it's an uncomfortable zone. And I'm saying this because we were talking privately before we started recording this video, and I like when we talk about what we go through as well, as you did, so because it's authentic. And sometimes we want to go back into the doing really rapidly, instead of saying, well, perhaps I do need like a whole month of doing nothing. And that's so uncomfortable. Personally, I'm living a situation like that, where I'm living through a grieving process, and I'm like, I'm uncomfortable not doing things. I always have projects, and I persuade myself that oh, I'm doing this, for the cause, for everybody. It's true. I do that out of love. But at the same time, I think I'm kind of escaping a part of myself where it doesn't want to be in that uncomfortable grieving process you were talking about. And I think we really need to be more patient, not just loving to ourselves, but patient in terms of saying, well, there's no time for healing. Healing is something that takes, like you said, it can take a whole lifetime. Our whole lifetime, we're healing, our traumas, our things that are triggering us. And it's just a question of being patient as well. So, but it's also applicable, of course, to the modality you bring, in the sense that it's not going to happen in one day. It's just layer after layer.
And it will, like I was saying before, your path will shift and change. I'll give you an example. My teacher, she's 79 years old, and I mean, she's amazing. But as we're working through, the classes that I've taken with her, we'll do different exercises and she's with us doing the exercises as well, and things are coming up for her. So it's a lifelong process. It gets easier. But then, like I said, you'd be working through something, and you'll be going along fine, and all of a sudden something will come in and just, bring you right back to what you thought you had healed. That happened with me at the conference last year. What I thought was that I had worked through, my self-worth issues, and just came back up again because of the energies that were going through the conference, because when the galactics came in, the frequency is so high, so it brings all that up, and you're like, I'm like, what the hell is this now? Like, I thought I
Where's that
went
coming
through
from?
this. What? Like, so, but in that, don't get frustrated. Acknowledge it, say thank you, for showing me what I still need to work on, because by giving it a voice, it actually helps disperse the energy. By, what we resist persists. So if you're going to say, well, I already dealt with this, I don't want to deal with this again, it's just going to keep coming back, coming back. So, thank it. Whatever the emotion is you're feeling, grief, anger, my cats just decided to have a fight.
Okay, cats always love to intervene in the videos. I love that they're bringing their little thing.
So, acknowledge it. Give it its voice. It needs a voice. That's why it's coming up. That's why you're feeling uncomfortable, because it needs to be voiced. It needs to be heard. So, give it its time. It's time. So, and in tapping, you'll always tap on the negative first, and then go into the positive. So if you're upset about something, write it down. I mean, if you want to write, however you're feeling, whatever's going on, like sometimes maybe you just need to give your ego its little voice and write down,
the horrible
blah
things, the
blah,
way
these
they
horrible things and everything you're thinking of. Maybe you're angry at your boss. So you're a jerk, and I don't like what you said to me, and you do all this stuff, and blah 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 blah, and just let it out. Get it, just give it the voice. And at that point, just once it has its voice, tear the paper up and throw it away. Sometimes maybe that's just what it needs, rather than just try to say, I'm going to be a good person and I'm going to transmute this and look at them as, sometimes, yes, that's a good thing, do that after, but sometimes maybe you just might need to just vent.
And that's part of the shadow work.
That's okay. It's, the point is not to stay there and always be, always be that, staying within the negativity, the victim mentality. Thank you. That's, that isn't healthy.
No.
We want to move past that, and to move past that, you
Yeah.
know, you have to work through what you're feeling, because, you know, your feelings are valid too.
Mhm.
You know, if something happened to you, you know, whatever it was, you know, it's valid. What you're feeling is very valid. You know, and you know, sometimes, you know, that people say, you know, we'll look at it from the other person's perspective. Yes, but don't forget your own at the same time. But don't, you know, the balance is not to stay within that, you know, victim mentality, and they did this, and whatever, and say I'll just pull out of it, because I know a lot of people have issues, like, you know, with a parent.
Mhm.
um, they may never see your side. Finding that balance, in my case, it came to a point where I had to cut off ties with my mom,
Mhm.
because it just was not healthy. Now, I'm not saying that's for everyone.
Mhm.
In my case, I had to make a choice, and it was not an easy decision. It was a very painful decision, because you have that going on in the back of your head, those voices that were put into your head, you know, you're bad, you're not, you know, you only have one mother, you know, all this. If somebody's abusive to you, you get to a point where you say, for my own sanity, for my self-care, enough. It comes to a point where there, you know, where
Love them
there's
from a
enough.
distance, as our dear Alex says.
Yeah, yeah.
Them from a distance.
So that may not work for everyone.
Mhm.
And you have to find it where that balance is, where, you know, um, and whatever that is, you know, if you can have a conversation with, you know, that person, um, maybe they can understand. A lot of times they won't, because they're stuck within themselves. So I don't know, you have to figure out, you know, where that is. And that's where, you
Mhm.
know, psychotherapy can come in, you know,
Mhm.
is very, you know, helpful in a situation like that, where, you know, where you find that boundary, where, you know, that person, they end and you meet.
Mhm.
um so, and that's not something I can even give, you know, advice for. I know what I did in my case, but
Yeah.
in some people, it's you know, it's very hard. It's very tough, you know,
Yeah.
to deal with something, because this is somebody that you're supposed to trust.
Mhm.
And you know, in some cases, you know, you find out that, you know, they're the ones hurting you.
Mhm. And hurting themselves by,
Hurting,
often if they're doing that, is because they are hurt themselves and they're profoundly hurt.
it's a pattern. And
Yeah.
this is where we're at, you know, at the precipice of our healing journey, all of us as humanity
Mhm.
on planet Terra, where, you know, we begin our healing journey. We are here, some of us are here to heal that ancestral line, because it's come down the line. Now it comes to you. Now you have a choice.
Yeah.
You know, you heal yourself, which heals the line behind you. But then going forward, any descendants going forward are healed. So, you know, when we're put into these situations, that this may be the reason why, you know, you're in this situation, to heal it. So give yourself a lot of credit, you know, be gentle with yourself. And you know, because our planet is headed in a really wonderful place. We're just in a really kind of crazy, messed up time right now, and it looks like, you know, like, oh, when's this ever going to end? And these people, they're all crazy, you know. So
But we're all
um
crazy right now because we
yeah,
are all going through the, the last bits we didn't, well, not the last bits, because I mean, we're always going to be on a healing process and on a journey of evolution. I mean, even our galactic brothers and sisters out there, I mean, even if they're like, I'm sure they're even on the 12th density, they, to get to source, which is a 13th density, they still need, to grow on certain things. So it's a constant evolution, and it's what makes sense and gives sense to our lives as well, to be in this constant growth. But like you say, just to give ourselves like the credit that we're all in that situation right now, and a little bit of compassion as well and patience, because I think we're all going through like these times when we're being triggered into the things that have not yet totally been transmuted and healed. And people like you, who with your beautiful what you bring, you're contributing to help people while you're still on your own journey of healing. So it's
Yeah, what I can say is that, yes, I'm still on my healing journey. I can share with people what I've already learned, um, and then they can take it, and exchange with somebody else. You're also learning from them because they're sharing their experiences, and something may resonate with you. Like with with my teacher, what really helped me break through that wall was her sharing her experience of losing, her pregnancies. So, and her experience of going through what she went through with her parents. So, and it was similar, knowing that you're not alone, that these situations are very common, and there is light at the end of the tunnel, and then it is a journey, and you're strong enough to get through it. So yeah,
absolutely.
you could do it. And getting back to the galactic, and something popped into my head when you were saying that. I mean, we look at our galactic brothers and sisters, and they're all love, and they're technologically advanced and all that. But we all came from the Orion Wars, from the Orion Wars.
Lots of
So
trauma.
they had their trauma that
Oh
they
my God.
transmuted.
Yeah.
So we can look at them as examples of, you can get through that. Our society, our people can get through that and come out the other side
Yeah.
and help others. We're not the only planet going through this.
No.
There are other planets out there right now going through what we're going through. So I do believe there will come a day when our people will be helping them, teaching them how to do their own healing.
Yeah.
So when you look at it that way, I mean, what we're doing now is important work.
Yeah, and I mean, we've been to a tough boot camp, but it was all worth it because, perhaps like you say, in future times, other worlds will be going through similar things. So it's important. We're getting closer to closing this interview. Before we you give us perhaps your link again, where people can reach you on Telegram. Before we talk about that, I suggested to you and to our friend Patrick, which is someone we
Mhm.
also interviewed previously in the beginning of my interviews, someone who works with a postural a postural approach, and how it can help people better their posture, and not only their physical posture, but obviously it has an impact on, I don't know what's the end and what's the beginning, but their mental posture as well. And for some reason, after our first interview, you and me, we had, I felt intuitively guided to perhaps have you both come on the channel
Mhm.
together to perhaps complement each other's approaches, and him with the postural aspect, and you with the acupressure. I don't know. I feel there's something quite beautiful can be not only interesting in terms of exchanges of your both of your different approaches, but also
Mhm.
to bring a lot to people right now who, like we said, a lot of people are struggling right now, either physically or, and if it can bring some help and support to viewers, it's just the better, the more the merrier, if we can join. So we'll have a third interview with you, Susie, and with Patrick as well, where it's going to be in a few weeks from now because we're all going to JSIC.
Mhm.
So, but
I
that will
can't
be in
believe
this.
that's next week already.
Yeah, it's
Crazy.
wow. And that's going, like you
Yeah.
said, you said last time you went there, you went through a lot of emotions because, like you said, energies are important. So I wonder, how we're going to go through this, but I'm also very much looking forward to it. I think it's going to be great, and meeting you in person as well.
Mhm. Yeah.
But yeah, we're going to have that third interview with Patrick and Susie. And before we close, first of all, I would like to know if you can just tell us how can people reach you if they want to, consult you or talk to you or reach to you or have a session. And, I'll put the link under the description of this video.
Right now, I'm just on Facebook. I have Sacred Source Angelic Healing, and it's also the same on Telegram. Um, we'll have the links, and I'm just building up those two right now. Those the two platforms, and I'm active with posting things more so on Facebook than I am on Telegram, um, and I'm just just trying to get the awareness out there, mostly, you know, not just for the acupressure, but just for healing in general. That's just where my heart is right now, just getting people to, access their own inner healing and start their healing journey, or, continuing on with it. So it's just so important. I see people suffering around me, and it bothers me. I was watching a video yesterday that it was a short clip, and it was about a man who was abducted, and he was explaining what happens to a man when they're extracting something in an abduction. And I guess he had gone through, some kind of hypnosis to bring that out. And they were showing a small clip of the part of him waking up out of his hypnosis, hysterically sobbing. And I started to cry because I just felt so bad for him. And that's an extreme case, but just people in general they're just suffering with just, just the pain that they've been going through. And I'm not talking about abductions now. I'm just talking about just regular, people just, we're going through an ascension process. And it's challenging for people who don't know any of this, who've never done any kind of inner work, because it's always been like, oh, that's woo-woo stuff. Because they don't know about it. Their families were never, into it, never read any kind of self-help things. So, helping people, know that it's okay. You're going to begin somewhere, and whatever that means to you, uh, you know, we're each individual, so we all have to start at step one. So, and if you're further along in, and you've worked with different healing modalities, and go into different ones. I mean, most people, who have been through healing have already, done acupressure, acupuncture, have been going through yoga, and continue on with it. Continue on with it, because things will open up, things will reveal itself to you at the right time.
Yeah.
Sometimes
the right practitioner, the right. Yeah. My dear Susie, I thank you immensely for what you have brought to us. I mean, immense gratitude for what you bring to the viewers in terms of not only your modality, but also all your wisdom, your compassion, and it's your beautiful soul. And thank you for being all that you are and all that you do. And thank you for participating in this interview. And I look forward to have you back with Patrick. And yeah. And so meanwhile, take great care of yourself, and let's stay strong and high vibe frequency in these moments of sometimes a little bit depressive moments, but it's okay. We have to accept it, and sometimes transcend this, and everything is going to be all right in the end. But yeah, we need to work on ourselves a little bit. So thank you very much, Susie. And
thank you.
Take immense care of yourself, and thank you again. Dear beautiful soul, if you have enjoyed the content of this video, you are invited to share it, to like it. You can also comment. It will be my pleasure to offer comments in return. And you're also invited to subscribe to the channel. Have a lovely day. Bye. Hello, beautiful soul. You have been on a spiritual journey for some time, or perhaps you're just starting your inner journey. And you probably have questions that remain unanswered right now, although all your answers lie within yourself, as always. But sometimes we need someone to just give us a little nudge. And personally, as an intuitive and a transmitter and a creator, I have created my own type of approach where I offer the people the opportunity to ask a few questions, a maximum of 5 questions, where I will provide from my inner guidance, which is the fractal of source that I am and that you are as well as my high vibration guidance, will provide a vocal transmission. And also we will be creating an artwork just for you, unique and original, based on your questions, and the motifs and the colors that will be chosen for the artwork will have in some ways some information about the answers to your question. And I will also use a piece of music that, either through the frequency of its melody, of its words, will also give you some clues as to what the answers to your questions might be. And I only serve as a nudge, as a pointer, in order for you to, after that, resonate or not with this information, and then you can pursue your own spiritual and inner journey, just having been just helped a little bit on the path. So if you're interested in a creative intuitive transmission session, which I call CIT, I invite you to follow the link that's below in the description of this video, and on my website, abigaëllerichard.com/CIT. And don't hesitate to ask for more information or just book a session. Have a lovely day. Bye.